Might be interesting to ground some of this conversation in some science, some interesting science. Although I'm sure many of you are not scientists, but sometimes science can kind of earth the conversation a little bit. And I want to share with you an extraordinary piece of research that was done, actually, interestingly, in Italy, and was published about 14 years ago. I'm not sure what the original research was doing, but they were essentially using chimpanzees, and they were putting these very, very thin electrodes into different parts of the brain. And what they were doing was, at one stage in the experiment, was putting an electrode into an area of the brain which sits about here. You can see that on my bald pate. It's much more obvious for me. What's an area called the motor cortex. The motor cortex is involved with locomotion and movement in the body. And they were using two chimps, and the chimps happened to be mates in the laboratory. And they both had electrodes deeply embedded into their brain. And some bright spark in the laboratory noticed that while the one chimp was acting in a particular way, the chimp's mate was having a parallel response in its brain in exactly the same area. So, for example, the chimp was given a banana, and the chimp would eat the banana, which is a particular motor function. You'd have to grip the banana, you have to bring it up to your mouth, you have to chew, and all of that is what we call motor function. Interestingly, fascinatingly, the chimp's mate in the cage in the same laboratory, while watching its mate eat the banana, had exactly the same regions of the brain activated. So the two chimps were in neural resonance with each other. And the researchers were completely flabbergasted that this could be happening, because they weren't connected in any other way other than they had a relationship. And this led to an exploration and an investigation of what was underlying this. And one of the emergent pieces of data that started to come through was that the brain has specialized neurons. Neurons are brain cells, which are called mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are scattered in different parts of the brain, which form part of something called social circuitry, the social circuitry. In other words, our brain is hardwired to be embedded in relationships. And this piece of data, this piece of research showed that this is occurring all the time, even though we're not aware of it. That we have social circuitry, have specialized neural areas, and we even have specialized brain cells that are exclusive use domains for interacting with the world. One of the things that seems to be emerging in our times is that because of this incredibly intense turbulence, the complexity that Sonia was referring to, it feels to me like a fire that's burning, and it's burning things away, which is revealing both what doesn't matter ultimately, and also is revealing what really does matter. And everything that's being spoken of this afternoon feels like it's revealing what was always so, which is that we are fundamentally and profoundly interconnected. And in fact, more than that, interdependent. And this neuroscience data has always been there. We just only discovered it a decade and a half ago, although that hasn't necessarily moved into the mainstream.